You're using them right now, in your phone. They're helping us create clean energy. They're super important for our world today, but there's a hidden cost. So today, let's talk about something called rare earth elements.
Okay, so here's a question for you. What does your smartphone have in common with, say, an electric car or a giant wind turbine? It seems like they're totally different, right? Well, the answer is a special group of minerals that makes all of them work.
All right, first, let's dive in and look at what these minerals actually are. We'll see why they're so important, pretty much the building blocks of all our modern technology.
So, what are we talking about here? Well, they're called rare earth elements. It's a group of 17 different minerals, and honestly, they are critical for our modern lifestyle.
And you can find them in so many things we use every day. They're inside our smartphones, they're in electric vehicles, and they're in those huge wind turbines. Basically, they're hidden away inside a lot of our high-tech gadgets.
The thing is, we really need them. I mean, if we couldn't get a steady supply of these rare earths, the production of a lot of our most important technology would just stop. The factories would have to close.
Okay, so if these minerals are so important, what's the problem? There has to be a catch, right? Well, there is. Getting them out of the ground, it's a really difficult and pretty dirty job.
And here's something you might find surprising. These rare earth elements, they aren't actually that rare. They're found pretty much all over the Earth's crust. The real problem is that they're spread out. You almost never find enough of them in one single spot to make mining profitable.
On top of that, the way we mine them is a huge issue for the environment. You see, to get the minerals out of the rock, you have to use a lot of strong chemicals. And often, these chemicals can leak into the soil and the water, and that causes some really serious long-term damage. So because mining is so difficult, it leads to another big problem, and this one is a global risk. Since only a few countries can produce them cheaply, our entire supply chain is kind of fragile.
And that creates a really serious risk for the economy. Just imagine if a country that produces a lot of them suddenly stops selling. It would cause huge problems for everyone. It's actually why some countries have started stockpiling them, saving them up just in case.
But let's think about that for a second. What would really happen if the supply was suddenly cut off? What would that look like?
Well, it could easily turn into a global crisis. The economy would be in for a huge shock. Nations might start holding on to their resources. And for you and me, the prices for electronics could skyrocket. And since we all still want our gadgets, this could cause a lot of tension between different countries.
So that all sounds pretty bad. Is there a better way to do this? Well, in this last part, let's look at one possible solution, and that's recycling.
Yeah, recycling seems like a really promising idea. Think about it. Instead of more and more mining, we could start getting these valuable materials from all the old electronics we throw out.
In fact, one source puts it perfectly, saying, recovering rare earths from discarded electronics is a promising solution. It's a simple idea, but it could be a complete game changer for a more sustainable future.
And it has two huge benefits. First off, recycling means much less damage to the environment compared to mining. And second, it helps make our supply chain more stable, so we don't have to depend on just one or two countries.
So recycling is definitely a big step in the right direction. It gives us a cleaner, more stable way to get these materials. But it does leave us with one last big question to think about. As our world wants more and more technology, is recycling going to be enough to power our future? Thanks for listening.